My name is Marin Holt. I'm 37 years old. I work as a claims adjuster, and after my divorce, I did the one thing everyone tells you to do when your life feels unstable. I tried to build something practical. I bought a duplex, not a cute one, not a passive income dream from social media, just a sturdy little brick place on a quiet street with 2 units, a small shared yard, and enough rental income to keep my mortgage from swallowing me whole. I lived upstairs. The downstairs unit paid the bills. That was the plan. That was the math. That was how I told myself I was smart, not scared. For the first year, it worked. My first tenant was a nurse who kept succulents on the windowsill and paid on time. The second was a retired man who baked banana bread and never made noise. I started believing the duplex wasn't just a financial decision, it was a recovery tool, something I could control, something that didn't vanish because someone's feelings changed. Then the tenant who paid in cash showed up. His name was Eli. That was what he wrote on the application. Just Eli, no last name at first, like he was applying to rent a room in a hostel instead of a legal residence. He showed up to the viewing 5 minutes early in clean jeans and a plain gray sweatshirt, hair trimmed neatly, no visible tattoos, no smell of smoke, no obvious red flags. Mid-30s, maybe. Quiet smile, polite, the kind of man who makes landlords relax because he doesn't look like trouble. He said he'd just moved back to town to care for family and needed something temporary while he got settled. He didn't have much furniture. He worked contract jobs and could pay a few months up front. I should have been more suspicious, but my vacancy had just hit week 3 and my savings account was starting to look offended. Also, in my city, plenty of people work under the table or gig jobs and prefer cash because banks treat them like criminals for not having a neat pay stubs. Cash wasn't automatically bad. Still, I did what I always did. Background check, references, ID scan. He gave me a driver's license from a neighboring state. Valid, clean photo, correct DOB. His credit score was thin, but not alarming. His previous landlord reference answered, sounded normal, said Eli paid on time, and kept the place clean. The only weird thing was how quickly he wanted to move in. I can take it today, he said, holding an envelope in his hand like he'd been waiting for me to say yes. I laughed lightly. Today? He smiled. If that's okay. I told him I needed 24 hours for paperwork and key copies. He nodded like that was fine, but I noticed something then. His eyes flicked past me toward the hallway that led upstairs, toward my unit, not in a creepy, lingering way. In a quick assessing way, like he was mapping the building. I ignored it because I didn't want to start seeing threats in every glance. Divorce does that to you sometimes. It makes you either paranoid or reckless depending on what day it is. That day, I was tired. He moved in on Monday. No moving truck. Just a few duffel bags and one taped-up box that looked lighter than it should have. He carried everything himself in 2 trips. No friends, no family, no furniture delivery. He thanked me twice, asked where the trash bins were, and said, "You won't even know I'm here." People always say that like it's a gift. The first week, he kept his promise. Quiet, lights off early, no music, no packages, no visitors. He'd leave around 8 a.m., come back around 6, and I'd sometimes hear the soft click of his door, the way you hear a neighbor's life in passing. I saw him once in the yard taking a phone call, speaking low, head turned away, as if he didn't want anyone to read his lips. Then small, odd things began. Nothing dramatic, just off. A piece of mail addressed to me showed up downstairs in his mailbox slot. Not my upstairs box. His. I thought the mail carrier made a mistake. It happens. I walked downstairs. knocked lightly, and when he opened the door, I held up the envelope. Hey, this ended up in your box. Eli blinked, glanced at it, then smiled like it was mildly amusing. Oh, yeah, I'll bring it up. I waited, because that was my mail. He didn't hand it back. He just held it casually and said, USPS is wild. I felt a tiny spike of irritation. Could you just give it to me? His smile stayed in place, but his eyes tightened a fraction. Then he handed it over. Of course. Sorry. I went back upstairs, telling myself not to overreact. He was probably just awkward. 2 days later, it happened again. This time it was a bank statement, mine, ending up in his slot. Again I went down. Again, he acted like it was no big deal. Again he hesitated half a second too long before giving it to me. That was when my stomach started doing the quiet warning thing it does when a pattern is forming. So I checked the mailboxes outside. The duplex had 2 boxes on a post by the curb. Unit A upstairs and Unit B downstairs. Simple. My name was printed on the Unit A label. The previous tenant's name had been removed from Unit B and left blank, waiting for the new name. Or it was supposed to be blank. When I looked closely, there was a new label on Unit B, white tape with clean black letters. M. Holt. My name. My last name. On his box. I stood there on the sidewalk with my keys in my hand and felt my skin go cold. Because this wasn't a mail carrier mistake anymore. This wasn't misdelivery. This was someone deliberately attaching my name to his unit like he was trying to merge our identities at the most boring official level possible. I ripped the label off immediately, my fingers shaking with rage. It came away too easily, like it had been placed recently. That night, I texted Eli, Hey, I noticed my name was on your mailbox. Please don't do that. Your mailbox should have your legal name only. He replied 2 minutes later. Must have been the mailman. I didn't touch it. The lie was so casual it almost made me laugh. The mailman did not carry rolls of label tape and decide to add my last name to a tenant's box for fun. But I didn't argue over text. Arguing gives liars room. I just wrote, Okay, don't add any labels. I'll handle it. No reply. The next morning, the mailman arrived while I happened to be outside taking out trash. He was older, friendly, the kind of carrier who actually makes eye contact. He nodded at me. Morning, Miss Holt. I froze. How do you know my name? He looked confused. It's on the door. My throat tightened. What door? He pointed with his chin toward the downstairs unit. I walked fast, not running, but close. And there it was, on the inside of the glass storm door of Unit B, taped neatly at eye level, M. Holt, Unit B, my name again. My last name in clean block letters. I stared at it. Then I turned and looked at the mailman. That's not his name, I said. The mailman's face tightened. Well, that's what's posted. I felt nauseous, because posting your name on a unit isn't just mail convenience. It's a declaration to anyone who looks, delivery people, neighbors, utilities, anyone, that this is your residence. And now, apparently, my name was on the door of my tenant's unit like I lived there, like I belonged there, like he could claim me in tiny bureaucratic ways without ever touching me. I didn't knock. I unlocked. Landlord key, legal. My lease allowed entry with notice, but this was my name on his door. I told myself it was urgent. I told myself I was allowed. Inside, the unit smelled, lived in, not messy, but occupied. Still very little furniture. A mattress on the floor in the bedroom, a folding chair in the living room, a table lamp plugged into the wall, a stack of unopened mail on the counter, and on top of that stack was a piece of mail addressed to me at Unit B. I picked it up with hands that felt suddenly too hot. It was from my credit union. The address line read, Marin Holt, Unit B, my street address. My body went cold all over again. This wasn't just name labels anymore. Someone had updated my mailing address somewhere, or attempted to. I heard a sound behind me, the soft click of the front door. Eli stood there, not startled to see me inside, not angry, just calm, like this was inevitable. "You're early," he said. I stared at him. "Why is my name on your door?" He shrugged. "Mail keeps getting mixed up." "Don't," I said sharply. "Don't play dumb. Why is my name on your door and on mail sent here?" He smiled faintly. "It's your building." "It's my building," I repeated. "Not my residence. This is your unit. And your legal name is not mine." He stepped closer, just one step, but it made the room feel smaller. "You live upstairs," he said. "I live downstairs. It's basically the same household." My stomach turned. "No," I said. "It's not." He looked at me like I was being unreasonable. "I just thought it would be easier. For packages. For what?" I snapped. "For you to pretend you're me?" His expression tightened, and for the first time I saw something harder under the polite, quiet man mask. "I'm not pretending," he said. "I'm fixing something." That sentence did not belong in a landlord-tenant conversation. It belonged in a delusion. My skin prickled. "Get your things. You're leaving." He laughed once, low. "You can't just kick me out because of a label." I backed toward the doorway. "Watch me." I turned and walked out fast, locked the unit behind me, and went upstairs shaking so hard I couldn't fit my key into my own lock on the first try. Once inside, I called the police non-emergency line, then my property management attorney, then my credit union. The credit union call was the one that made my blood run cold in a new way. The rep pulled up my account and said, "We received an address change request yesterday." "From who?" I asked. "It was submitted in person at our branch," she said. ID was shown. My throat tightened. "What ID?" She hesitated, then said, "A driver's license matching your name." I sat down hard on my kitchen floor because I was upstairs alone in my own home while someone downstairs was trying to become me on paper, not metaphorically, literally. Within an hour, the police arrived. 2 officers took a report, photographed the labels, the mail, and asked if I had a copy of Eli's ID. I did, because I scan everything. His license photo matched him. Name, Elias Rourke. State, valid. Address, previous. They ran it. It came back real, which meant either he was using his real identity to do something weird, or he had another identity too. When the officers went downstairs to speak with him, he didn't answer. The unit was suddenly quiet. No footsteps, no TV, nothing. My stomach dropped because I had locked the door, but the back door of Unit B led to the shared yard gate and the alley. By the time they gained lawful entry, knock, announce, then entry under suspicion of fraud, the unit was empty. The mattress was gone, the folding chair gone, the table lamp gone, the stack of mail gone. He had moved out in under an hour, like he had never been there, except he had left 2 things behind. 1, the taped name label on the storm door, still stubbornly stuck there like a claim. 2, a folder on the kitchen counter, manila, neatly placed, as if he wanted it found. Inside was a printed packet of documents. My name at the top, my date of birth, my credit union account number, a copy of my driver's license, an old one, expired, from before I changed my address after the divorce, and a lease agreement template with my name, typed as the tenant for Unit B. My mouth went dry. This wasn't a guy trying to steal mail. This was identity theft, but with a twist that felt personal. He wasn't just opening a credit card, he was placing me into Unit B, establishing residency, creating a paper trail that said I lived downstairs. Maybe to claim domestic partnership, maybe to claim tenant rights, maybe to claim access, maybe to trap me in a narrative I didn't consent to. The detective assigned later, Detective Sato, explained it in blunt terms. He was trying to anchor your identity to that unit. She said, once enough records show you live there, it becomes easier to redirect mail, open accounts, create debts, even forge legal claims. It's like building scaffolding around a lie until the lie can hold weight. And why me? I asked, voice shaking. Sato's eyes were tired. Sometimes it's opportunistic. Sometimes it's targeted. But landlords are convenient targets because your name is already tied to the property. People assume you have access. People don't question you being around. That was the sentence that made me feel sick. People don't question you being around. He could be seen entering and leaving my building, and neighbors would assume he belonged because my name was on his door. He could claim he lived with me, and it might sound plausible to strangers because the building was mine. He could create a situation where removing him became harder because paperwork would blur who was supposed to be where. And if he could convince a bank he was me, what else could he convince? Over the next week, everything became locks and reports and phone calls and the kind of fear that makes you check your own mailbox like it might bite. I put fraud alerts on my credit, filed identity theft reports, changed every password, replaced every lock, installed cameras, had a locksmith rekey both units and the shared gate, filed an emergency eviction notice even though he was already gone because my attorney said, paper trails matter. Make yours louder than his. The weirdest part was how quickly he vanished. No forwarding address, no workplace, no trace of Eli beyond the initial application. The references were fake. The previous landlord number was a prepaid cell. The cash payments he'd made, 3 months up front, were clean, untraceable. The only lead they found came from the credit union branch security footage. The woman who submitted the address change request was not Eli. It was a different person entirely. A woman in a baseball cap and mask holding an ID with my name. She wasn't Brianna. She wasn't anyone I recognized, which meant Eli wasn't alone. It was a small crew, not just a weird tenant. People who rented units under thin identities, then quietly tried to pivot the landlord's name into the unit's identity to harvest access and paperwork leverage. A scam. Not romance, not obsession. A scam. That should have made me feel better. It didn't. Because scams still require proximity. Still require someone standing in your kitchen, touching your mail, taping your name onto their door like a threat written in office tape. And because even if it wasn't personal, it had become personal the second I realized how easily someone could slide into your life through the cracks of normal procedures. I ended up hiring a property manager 3 months later, not because I couldn't handle the duplex, but because I no longer wanted to be the only set of eyes on it. I needed redundancy, witnesses, systems, a second person who would notice if a name label changed. Sometimes people hear this story and say, at least you caught it early. I nod, because that's what you're supposed to do. But the truth is, I didn't catch it early. The mailman caught it early. He asked why my name was on his door. That question saved me, because if no one had asked it, if the labels had stayed up longer, if mail had continued slipping into Unit B, if the bank request had gone through, if a lease had been filed, this could have turned into months of unwinding a paper identity I never chose. So yes, my new tenant paid in cash. Then the mailman asked why my name was on his door. And that's when I learned the scariest criminals don't break windows, they change labels. They borrow your name, stick it to their life, and wait for the world to believe the tape more than it believes you.